Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening with us. I appreciate you braving the weather and coming out for the presentation. My name is Sandra Miller, and I am the current superintendent for Cassia School District, and I'm very honored to have that title and to be able to help lead the district over the past few years. I do want to introduce a few people really quick before we get started. So along with me, my partner in crime for the last few years, Chester Bradshaw, Assistant Superintendent. And then we have several, I think we have all of our trustees here. So we have Board Chair Ryan Cranny, and we have Co-Chair Kent Kidd over there, on opposite sides, okay. And then we have trustees Sandy Baker, Ron Christensen, and Monica Maurer. She is coming, if she's not here yet. So she was with us today. I believe she's coming. So thank you to the trustees. Thank you to Dusty Fisher and his crew for allowing us to be here this evening in the Little Theater. So thank you to all of those folks. Thank you to the central office staff who helped with cookies and brochures and all kinds of things. So it takes a team, and we have a really good team here in Cassia. So we're going to get started, and I may tag team with Mr. Bradshaw and Mr. James. We also have in the audience the new superintendent who will start July 1st, Dr. Scott Root, and he will take a little bit of time after the supplemental levy presentation to introduce himself. So, and there'll be time for questions as well. But please, it's not a formal presentation by any means. If you have questions or you need clarification, please stop us during the presentation, okay? All right, so we'll just go ahead and move forward. I'm gonna try to move forward here. Okay, so a supplemental levy, there are certain parameters around supplemental levies. And this one is a 2-year supplemental levy. It started for Cassia County way back in 1979. And it's passed the majority of the time, every 2 years. So that's a lot. And for me, 2 years seems to go really fast because we were talking, we're like, well, the supplemental is due this year. Didn't we just do that 2 weeks ago? But it's been 2 years ago. So it is every 2 years, and it's for operational needs. It cannot be used for facilities, but for operations. And it pays for things that are not fully funded by the state Department of Education and or, you know, sometimes state income taxes, as you'll see here too. Things like curriculum, extracurricular activities, and some safety, school safety measures that we've put into place. We are asking, we want to be very transparent, we are asking for $200,000 more dollars annually, okay, and you'll see where that's going to go. So we just want you to know we are asking for a little bit more. The pie chart here, and I do have to thank Chris James, I think I neglected, I said central office staff, but he is instrumental in creating our presentations and crunching all the numbers to make sure they're accurate. So I do want to give him credit and thank him. So the proposed expenditures, and we'll go over them in detail, are here in a pie chart, okay? All of this information is on our website because it is kind of harder to see when you project it this big, but you can go to the website and it's all there. In fact, the presentation is also there, recorded by Chris, and it's probably a little bit better than what I'm doing. So if you want to listen to it, you might understand it better. So we'll move along then to the next, slide. Let's go forward instead of back. Okay. So this is revenue by source. How do we get our money? How do we get our revenue, okay, to operate? So the supplemental levy makes up 3% of our total budget. And 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but the 3% that it does provide to us is very valuable. And we'll talk about what it covers and why it's so valuable. 79% of the district's annual revenue comes through from the state, and it comes through sales and income tax. And so the majority of it does come to us from the state and the residents of Idaho who buy things with sales tax and property and income tax. Federal sources do make up about 10%, and federal sources are sources such as Title I for schools that have populations who fall under free and reduced, have some students that are on free and reduced lunch. Special ed funding comes to us from the federal government for students with learning challenges and special needs. And we also, like food service, okay, that's federal dollars that come to us to serve children meals. So those are the federal dollars. And then we also have the property tax from the bond and the levies, and that makes up about 5%. But our district received $4.8 million from the state of Idaho to help with tax relief, property tax relief for our residents of Cassia County. And so that has helped to offset the supplemental levy and our bond, and there's a good slide here, and Chris might go over that with you. As I said, he's really good at explaining those slides for us. So 2-year supplemental then, what are we going to spend the money on if the voters in Cassia County approve it for us? Okay, so where are we going to spend it? We cannot tell you how to vote. We can only ask you to get out and vote once you're educated on the needs of the district and what we're asking for. So on that note, curriculum adoption. We used to get a little bit more money from the state for curriculum, and it's kind of gotten less and less over the years. And unfortunately, the cost of curriculum has gone up. And so there's a mismatch there. Some of our textbooks, 6 years ago, or 10 years ago, were 25 years old. And so we are now on a 7-year rotation with all of our content areas, including electives. Okay, so music and art, humanities classes are all on a rotation. CTE is on a rotation with us. So every 7 years, we adopt that content area again. So this year, we've had a curriculum committee who is made up of our math specialists in the district, math teachers, and parents, and they have looked at math curriculum for grades 7-12. And they have a curriculum picked out. It's going to be going to the board on Monday, and should our supplemental be successful for us on May 19th, then we will be purchasing math curriculum grades 7-12. It is $600,000 that we have budgeted for it. Two levies ago, it was $400,000, and that wasn't quite enough. Then it was $500,000, and last year when we did elementary ELA, we could have used another $100,000 or $200,000 for the one we wanted with all the bells and whistles that came with it. So that is one of the increases. The $200,000 you see the little asterisk at the bottom is for curriculum and SROs. School nurses. We have 3 full-time nurses now for 5,500-ish students and 16 student-occupied buildings. So that's not a lot of nurses to help us. And so one of them used to be on a grant from the state of Idaho, but the grant went away. So we kind of rely on these funds to help us with those positions. And then resource officers, same thing there. We have 4.5 for 5,500 students, 16 buildings, And one of those is a grant that we wrote just recently and received. And the others come out of this, and the city of Burley, I think, helps with that. City, county combined, they help us a little bit with resource officers. So nurses, resource officers, very much a safety issue to us. Okay, we really want staff that are experts in those areas to help our district when we need it. Okay, I do have to put a plug in though for law enforcement in Cassia County, because regardless of resource officers or not, they will come if we call them immediately. I mean, they are there to help us immediately. So I do want to thank them and put a plug in for that, for them as well. Classroom supplies. So we are required to provide, a free public education. And a few years ago, the state of Idaho and some districts, not ours, were involved in a lawsuit about student fees and what was being charged for students. And at that time, we decided we were going to do the best we could to provide school supplies for everyone. I also need to put a plug now for service clubs such as the Rotary Club, Kiwanis, Seroptimist, churches, the Zari Vaninskis who are in the audience. There are people in our community who also help with things like this. At the beginning of school, we get people calling us and they bring school supply donations. They want to help the kids as well. So we have a lot of community support, but in order to make it equal and to provide for all students, it's a big amount. You can see there, $350,000 for all of our kids in all of our schools. Extracurricular. I know that's a big number, but Chris James can also tell you more about additional that we pay into that. And most of this is for transportation as well as coaching, stipends for coaches. And the state does reimburse for regular bus routes, sometimes 85%, 50 to 85%, okay, depending on what it is. They also will reimburse us for field trips that are tied to standards. But unfortunately, basketball games, volleyball games, baseball games, softball games, track, some of those and some music events are not tied directly to a standard that you teach in a class. They are very important, and they help to make our students well-rounded. Extracurricular activities have their place, and we love them, and we want our kids to have them, but they do cost the district some money. So the $1 million there doesn't cover all of the costs that the district puts in there. We add additional funds out of discretionary to pay for that, but it does help us tremendously with the cost. Okay, so I just, again, want to be transparent there. And then the Connect program. So Simply Hope is a local agency, for a better word, who helps families. And we have partnered with them. And a few years ago, we had a private donor in Cassia County who donated $100,000 for us to be able to help students who were having challenges in school, in life, teenagers who are struggling with everything they're trying to go through. And mental health is a big concern nowadays. And so we had a private donor for a couple years, and then we've moved it to the supplemental levy because it was so effective for kids. It was so helpful for kids. What we do is we allow students, parents can call, students who are old enough, if they're struggling, can call Connect Hope, and they will provide up to 6 sessions of counseling free to the family. And I don't know of any other district in the state of Idaho that does that. And it is such a positive, good resource for our students and families in Cassia County. So that's what that money's for. And I will tell you, Connect Hope sends a monthly ledger. How many kids did they see that month? How many screeners did they provide? How many counseling sessions? We don't know names, gender, grades, schools, and that doesn't matter to me. I just want to know that they are helping our students, and they only bill us for those hours or services that we have. So we're hopeful, you know, that $150,000 a year is going to be enough to serve all the children that need it. And for those of you in the audience who maybe didn't know about it, if you ever need to use the service, that's great. We need that to be available to all of you. And then for the next couple years, we would like to add some new classroom furnishings. And we've been doing that over the years, so we're getting better. But some of our desks, and I joke about saying they look like they were from the Little House on the Prairie. And then, but in the audience, some people were like, so I'm like, yeah, I know I'm getting older. Some of them didn't know Little House on the Prairie. So very old, long time ago. So some of you are too young to know Little House on the Prairie, but we're working hard. And the new desks, just like you see, some people like to stand, even secretaries, you know, they raise their desks. They like to stand for a while instead of sit all day. Our new desks allow us to raise them for students who want to stand instead of sit all day. They might want to stand for one class period, and they kind of come together in a unique way. They can make a big circle so they can do group discussions together. Anyway, it's kind of nice to go in a classroom and see some desks that our welding class hasn't welded back together for us 5 times. And we love that. Thank you to our welding students who help with that. But it's kind of nice to see some of those. So that's 26, 27. If it passes 27, 28, you can see the only real difference there is the science curriculum. Okay? And again, I just want to make note that the extra $200,000 would go to curriculum and our resource officers. We have brochures that talk about what our nurses do and our resource officers over there, as well as this information from this presentation. Okay, again, if you have questions, please make sure you stop me, okay? I'm going to let Chris explain this slide. Do you mind, Chris? You've done it 100 times, so thank you.
Just had tax day, so I'm sure you're not tired of talking about taxes, right? I know I am. So this slide, it's kind of difficult to see with the color on the projector here, but each of those colors represents a different tax or school bond or levy, and over time things have changed. So on the far left there, the dark blue at the bottom, that was a maintenance and operations levy. So school districts used to be funded very similar to counties and cities. We would get a maintenance and operations budget from property taxes, but the legislature did away with that, and they eliminated that maintenance and operations. So you can see that the tax rate dropped big time there around 2006. That's when they increased sales tax from 5% to 6%. 5 cents on the dollar to 6 cents on the dollar, and so so schools are not funded out of their maintenance and operations are not funded out of property tax anymore. They're funded out of sales tax. And it's kind of changed over time. When interest rates were low, the board refinanced the bond to get a little bit lower interest rate. Since about 2014, 15, when I came to the district, I've tried to keep the levy rate pretty stable so there weren't big ups and downs, and people's property taxes weren't swinging from one year to the next. But you can see around 2022, the levy rate started declining, and that was because we've just had so much growth in the county. There have been new businesses that have opened up. There's been new homes that are built, and so the bigger the tax base, the more that property tax gets spread out to everybody. And so schools are a little bit different than counties and cities. Like I mentioned, they get a maintenance and operations budget, and they can increase that every year by 3% plus new construction. So schools, since our maintenance and operations doesn't come from property taxes like that, we don't have that option. The only way we can get more increased funding is to go out and ask the voters to approve an increase. And so schools are a little bit different that way when it comes to property tax. And then you can see the last 3 years, it's really dropped off, and our tax levy rate is as low as it's ever been. And that's because we got that property tax relief money that Sandra mentioned from the state of Idaho, that $4.8 million. And that came directly to the district, and it offset what we would have normally asked from property taxes. So it completely offset. You can see that yellowish, orangish colored one. On my screen, it's yellow, but up there, it looks kind of orangish. That is the bond. So in 2015, voters approved a bond. That's the one that was used to build John Evans Elementary, remodel Mountain View, did the gym out in Oakley, project out at Raft River. You know, it did a bunch of projects across the district. We've got 10 years left to pay off that bond. But for the last 3 years, voters have not had to pay anything on that bond because the property tax relief from the state surplus has offset the cost, and so it hasn't been billed to your property taxes. And it's also now offset the supplemental levy. You can see in 2026, the supplemental levy was not charged. So even though 2 years ago voters approved a supplemental levy, this year it wasn't charged to your property taxes. The money we got from the state completely offset that cost. And this is ongoing property tax relief. And we anticipate that we will get another payment in September. The amount is not set in stone. And so legally they won't let you put that on the ballot. So we have to display the true cost as if we were not getting any property tax relief, as if there wasn't going to be any growth in the market value. The true cost will be on the ballot. But we anticipate that there will be property tax relief, and it is highly likely that even if this supplemental levy is approved, no one will have to pay for it out of their property tax because of that ongoing property tax relief. So it's completely offset the bond, it's completely offset the supplemental levy, and it's offsetting part of the plant facility levy as well. Does everyone follow me on that, or is there any questions on that? Oh, everybody's just, okay, what's going on? Yeah. Great question. So Trustee Baker asked, if the levy doesn't pass, do we still get the property tax relief money? Yes. So this bill that they passed, it's a little bit deceiving because it's called school facilities funds, but really what it's accomplishing is giving property tax relief. But it follows a waterfall. So districts that receive this money first have to use it to offset a bond if they have one. If they don't have a bond, or if they have extra money, then they have to use it to offset a supplemental levy. And if they don't have a supplemental levy, or if that doesn't take all the money, then they have to use it to offset a plant facility levy. And if it offsets all of their debt and they have money left over still, then they can use it for school facilities. So some districts may not have a bond, they may not have a plant facility levy, they may have extra money, and they can put that right towards their school facilities. They can't use it for anything else. They can't use it for curriculum or school supplies. The legislature was very specific in saying it has to first offset tax debt, and then it can be used for school facilities. Did that answer your question, Trustee? Okay, thank you. Yeah. No, great question. The law is very specific. It can only be used for debt or school facilities, school buildings, capital projects. Yeah. Okay. Her question was, if all of that was offset, could it be used for teacher salaries? And no. So Idaho has a very prescriptive funding formula. Almost every dollar we get is restricted funds, meaning that it has to be used for a specific purpose. They give us this much and they say use it for classroom technology. They give us this much and they say use it for professional development. They give us this much and they say use it for transportation, or for teacher benefits, or for teacher salaries. This is good and bad. It's good because it creates accountability, And it also allows the legislature to direct what their priorities are. If literacy is a priority, they can say, you get this much money, spend it on literacy. There are some states where they give you a per pupil amount and kind of leave it up to the local trustees to decide what to spend the money on. That's a less accountable system because you're gonna have a lot of variance from district to district. This way, it's more uniform statewide. But it is a different system than a lot of people that are moving here from California or Washington or Oregon are used to, because it's such a prescriptive. So that's why Sandra was saying the supplemental levy is so important, because that is the amount of money that's approved locally, that the local school board has input on what their priorities are and what it can be spent on in the local school district. Whereas most of the money they get is for a specific line item purpose, and can't be moved around to other purposes. Any more questions? All right, I'll let Sandra take it.
Thank you, Chris. He does a really good job of explaining all of that. So we appreciate that very much. So again, Chris has talked about the tax relief here and the projected tax cost to our patrons, okay, should this pass. So property tax relief is House Bill 592. And so what it states is that, this is an example of it. So if you have a home valued at $200,000, it is your primary residence, you get to claim 50% of that. So it's down to $100,000 of taxable property. And then in 2023, prior to tax relief bill, you would have been paying $239, I think it is. It's hard for me to see that. But after, in 2026, after tax relief, it was only 73. So it is considerably less, 69%. And he even put, some of the businesses valued or farms at $1 million. So you could kind of see that as well. Would have been $23.97 prior to the tax relief, and it's $757. I think that's a 57. Okay, 37. Thank you. I'm getting old. I probably should have worn my glasses. So after the property tax relief, our district levy rates are at the lowest rate ever. And you saw that in the slide that Chris talked about. And the legislature is continuing to fund that. We just don't know the amount. So it's 4.8 million that we got. We don't know if it'll be 4.8 million in September, but it's going to be something to help offset, okay? And for that reason, we're unable to put that on the ballot. Like he said, we can only put the truthful, this is what it would cost, but then with property relief, tax relief, we're hoping not so much. I like this slide too, because again, in 97, it just shows you 762 down to 74. So, it's gone down drastically. Again, got to thank the state for property tax relief. So we have to acknowledge that, and that they want that passed on to the citizens of Idaho.
Yeah. Well, I just could say they're doing their part to help bring down taxes and housing costs. And, we have a representative here too, and thank him for his work on that. Yeah.
And he is a great advocate for our public schools. So thank you for being here. So again, the average annual cost to the taxpayer on the proposed levy, the proposed one we have, is a tax of $73.18 per 100,000. Okay, but without the property tax relief, the total for all the bonds and levies would be approximately $197.92. That includes the bond and the plant and the supplemental. Okay, questions on that one? And this is kind of a cool slide, just for informational purposes. And on your left, okay, it's the 2026 tax cost per 100,000 property value. And it just shows where Cassia County would be, our school district. in comparison to others. So you can see Minidoka County is less, and that the main reason for that is they just paid off a bond. So that's good for Minidoka, that they just paid it off. In 10 years, we will pay off our bond, and ours will come down as well. And Minidoka is also, I'll just put a plug in because Chris has in the last couple presentations, they too are doing a supplemental levy on May 19th, just like us. And they have increased theirs a little bit too. And especially because the bond has come off, so it's not going to be, and the need is there. And they've had a couple presentations and there's stuff on their website for their district as well, if you want to see what they're going to spend theirs on. I haven't studied it. I just really studied ours and know what we're doing. On this side, though, it's amount of supplemental levy per student. And that's kind of interesting too. How many students do you have? How much are you asking in your levy? So what is the cost per student that you're looking at? So it's just interesting to see. And if you note, so currently at the current amount, it's 513, but at the proposed amount, it will be 549. So it does go up a little bit per student. Okay. But you can look at those. I mean, American Falls, they don't have nearly the students we do, but their supplemental is 2.6, even though ours will be a little higher, 2.995. We have more students than they do, so the cost that they're contributing per student is significantly higher. Okay. And those are just supplemental, and that includes supplemental and plant. And like Chris said, not every district has supplemental plant facilities. I know that Assistant Superintendent Chester Bradshaw said in his districts that he's been in, we're the first one with plant facilities. And he is such a maintenance and operations guy that it's been nice for him to do great upgrades for the district through that plant facilities. So for us, it's nice because we have it. And that one is a 10-year, the plant facility. Okay. Here is our rationale for asking for 200,000 more inflation. So on your left there, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, kind of shows you that inflation. Okay. In 2024, 2.795, and in 2026, the same buying power is now 2.947. So it's gone up. Everything's gone up. Okay, the cost of curriculum's gone up. So that's the calculator there, kind of explains all of that. And then on this side, our market value. And I like how Chris explained too that the more houses you have, the more businesses. And I did the presentation for Kaja High School yesterday and the parents that were there and kind of explained it, if you have 100, and you have this tax base, and then you double that to 200, it goes, it spreads it out more, so it's less. And the kids understood it, I think, just like Chris was explaining. But on the flip side, probably every one of our homes or property that we own has gone up in value. So when it is more valuable, your taxes are going to go up because your property is worth more. Not necessarily what we are asking for our patrons, but because your property value is higher. So anyway, that's kind of what this is. So you can see the market value has gone up on property and homes and businesses in Kaja County. Okay, we're just about done, I promise. So in conclusion, we are asking 200,000 more. Want to be very transparent. Don't want anyone to say that we didn't tell them we were trying to increase it. We are trying to increase it a little bit due to inflation, cost of things. The levy will cost $73.18 per 100,000 assessed taxable value. Hopefully, the state property tax relief eliminated the cost for our patrons and homeowners, business owners, and hopefully we'll do the same. The Board of Trustees has done a really good job of saying what is absolutely necessary and has kept the supplemental levy low. They've tried to make sure that they aren't burdening our community members, our parents, our business owners. So they've done a great job of keeping the rate low, their levy rate low. The election is on Tuesday, May 19th. It does require a simple majority, 50+1. And there's a ton of information on our webpage covering all of this. If you have further questions, concerns, need clarification, you can call anyone in our office. You can call Chris James, you can call Chester Bradshaw, you can call myself. We have a couple ladies from the office here. You can call them. I mean, you can call anybody at the district office. A trustee, they take calls and they can explain things as well. And two, I like this bottom bullet here, and I try to point the tax per 100,000 of taxable assessed value is expected to increase annually by $4.89. And so when you think about $4.89, I don't know about all of you guys, but I like Soda Barn, Fizz Farm. I'm not a coffee drinker, but there are people, and I probably spend more than that in a day or two getting a drink from there on my way to work. So it's not going to go up too much. Do you understand all this? Because Chris can explain it probably better if you don't, from my perspective. Okay, any other questions, concerns? I think that's our last slide, isn't it? Yeah. So, yes, oh, I'm sorry.
Can we get a little more granular? I'd like on a couple of those points.
Sure.
The curriculum adaptation and the classroom furnishings. What exactly does that entail?
So I can do curriculum, Chris and or Chester could do furnishings really good. Yeah, they could talk about that. So curriculum is textbooks.
So like whole new concept of math?
No.
Or just
replacements of old books. Yes. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, replacements. So it's still our standards that Idaho has adopted for math. And so the committee has looked at various vendors and said, here are our standards for 7th grade. Does this book cover them, adequately? I should also have said to you guys with curriculum, virtually every book we buy now has an online version. Okay, and so the students can get on at home. They can get on anywhere that they have access, to the internet and log into the actual textbook and do work or do tutorials or go back and reread. And also it's for 7 years. So I know it's 600,000 seems like a lot of money, but when you divide it by 7, it's less than 100,000 a year for 55, well, not 5,500 because that's only 712. So about 2,500 kids. Okay, so thank you. Classroom furnishings, yeah, Chester, do you want to, because you haven't taken the mic yet.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
I can talk about classrooms for just a minute. The things that we've spent our classroom money on this past year, the biggest school that we've spent that on has been in White Pine. We refurbished several classrooms last summer. I want to desks, chairs. Yep. Nope. Desks, chairs. There is a spot on there for classroom supplies. So you're talking about paper, pencils, those things. That comes out of that other category there. We're just today finishing up the library at Declo Junior High, which is also coming out of that classroom money. We recarpeted that. We put new bookshelves on the wall. So, yes, that's coming out of classroom furnishings. So, yeah, I don't think you're understanding maybe the definitions of the.
Classroom furnishings, I get that.
Okay.
Desk that's paying for.
Yes.
Things necessary for the classroom to function.
I'm talking about physical desks, chairs, attributes. Yes, absolutely.
Then I wanted to get more clarification on the classroom supplies.
And so maybe Chris can help me with that a little bit. pays those bills.
Yeah. So, yes. So the question is the line items on the supplemental levy. So I can just kind of go down that list. But Chester's right on the classroom furnishings. That's fixture and furniture. So, and when we built John Evans a couple years ago, it took 10 to 12,000 to outfit that classroom with student desks, student chairs, teacher desks, flags, waste baskets, pencil sharpeners. You know, that's the whole works. And furniture has gotten more expensive. And then so classroom supplies. So what that does is it goes into a pot and it's divided out to the 16 schools that Mrs. Miller talked about based on a per student allocation. And there's a formula that's done for that. So much per elementary kid, so much per secondary kid. And that goes into a budget that's controlled at the school level, at the high school level or the elementary school level, that the principal oversees. And they use it to buy copy paper is a big thing, and the toner in their printers and their copy machines. That's probably the biggest line item. But they also put supplies in the teachers' rooms for them to, the teacher workroom to come and get things that the teacher needs for theirs, office supplies for the front office, those kind of things. I don't remember the exact cost, but I think it works out between $70 to $100 per student. You could take the 350,000 divided by the 5,400 students that we have. And so it works out to roughly that. Did that answer your question? Okay. Any other items on that list that you have questions about? Yes. Okay, great question. So we have enough devices so that every student has access to a Chromebook when they're at school. Some of the older grades get to take their Chromebook home. And so we get a classroom technology line item from the legislature, thank you, that pays for most all of our classroom technology, projectors, Chromebooks, computers, and the computer lab. It pays for all those kind of things. Document scanners that the teachers project stuff up on the wall, you know, all those kind of things. And that's a state funding line item. It's not coming out of the supplemental levy. We try to only ask for things that in the supplemental levy that we feel like we need more of, that our state and our federal funding isn't satisfying for us. And we don't ask for a lot. Superintendent Miller was right. It only makes up about 3% of our budget. I know there are other districts where the supplemental levy makes up almost 20% or 25% of their budget. And you can't ask for more. What we're trying to do is live within our means. We're trying to live within the means, the funding that we get from the state, from the federal government, and not go out and ask for more than what we need. But we just like the state has priorities for literacy, for things that they want us to spend money on. The local trustees have priorities for things they want to spend on. The funding model that Idaho uses is a 1980s contraption, vintage model. And so if you think about how school has changed in regards to safety, in regards to curriculum and technology from where it was 20 or 30 years ago, we feel like those are areas where we want to prioritize. And to that effect, the state budget couldn't afford all of the safety things that every school wanted to do in the state. And the state budget couldn't afford all of the things that we want to do. Could we use 25-year-old curriculum books? Yes, but that's not ideal when they're falling apart and when they're taped together. And to Ms. Miller's point, you've got that online component that has to be renewed every 5 to 6, 7 years. So we're kind of forced into a 7-year curriculum rotation anyways. Even if the books are still fairly good, we have to renew the online component. So parents and students have access to the videos and the supports and the helps that are available on the online activities that come with the textbooks.
Yeah, we have more.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone can hear it. Yeah. She's one of our teachers, so.
I just wanted to make the comment that as a classroom teacher, we appreciate when our budget funds come to us. I maybe get $200 a year towards whatever things I might need. That bought me 8 books and a 24 pack of paintbrushes this year. I normally spend almost $1,000 every year out of my own pocket for every little tiny thing that I need for my kids to be successful, to have fun, to do science. Those kinds of things just aren't available. And so it's much appreciated what we can get, but teachers spend a lot of money out of our own pockets because we do it for the kids.
Thank you, Mrs. Simmons. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, here.
Oh, gosh. I do that enough. So my question is on the extra 200,000, why did you guys decide to put that towards the resource officers? I can see the curriculum, but I've noticed over the past couple of years that uptick of resource officers in elementary schools, which has caused me some concern just because of the perception to our young students.
Thank you. Well, safety has changed, like Chris James said, you know, there is safety factor involved in that. We do have some situations at elementary school where we do need some additional help. Our resource officers, though, I need to explain a little bit. Yes, they are there for enforcing the law. You know, they're first and foremost, you know, they're sworn law officers, okay? So they're there to help with that if need be. And I will say, at the elementary, vaping is clear down in the elementary schools, which blows my mind. And it is illegal, so, you know, to have someone there to help with that. But our resource officers are doing such a fabulous job of building trust and rapport with the students. They get in there into classrooms and actually do some teaching. At the upper levels in the high school, they teach about online bullying and sexting, which is not sex education, because we had a parent not too happy about that, but it isn't, we're not teaching sex education. We're teaching what sexting might look like on a social media device. So they get out there and they are helping to educate, I mean, they're out playing on the playground with some of the kids, you know, throwing the frisbee, building a relationship with law enforcement. So if they do ever need help from one of our law enforcement officials in Caddo County, that they feel comfortable, you know, approaching them. So, and we do, because we only have 4. So that's one reason we want to try to keep sustaining that safety and that, you know, relationship building and the education they provide. And so that's the reason there for that. Oh, okay. So thank you. She asked is it expected salaries will increase? No, it's to maintain the ones we have. Okay. Again, sometimes even some of the resources they need in the elementary schools or secondary, we help pay for that as well. And I think Gail Gallegos helps with safety, and she works very closely with our resource officers. And I will put a plug in. Our resource officers have been instrumental in doing lockdown drills with all our students, including elementary. And it can be scary, especially for elementary. So we feel like if we can practice it and do with our elementary kiddos a couple times a year, then it's more natural for them. They don't feel as scared. And if you ever go by a school in Caddo County and there's 10 or 12 emergency vehicles, police cars, state patrol, we have state patrolmen come. We have Minidoka County here. I think we have Twin Falls sometimes. We've had all kinds of agencies come. And these lockdown drills, they take a half a day to a whole day, depending on where they're at. And they do drills with our teachers and our students. And what they're teaching them is incredible stuff. Resource officers or any officers have said, we open the door, you know, we call a lockdown, they go in there, they open the door, and the kids, they're like, oh, I mean, the kids know what to do. The teachers have taught them. I mean, it's incredible. So those are the things that we want to, our resource officers help with to prepare in case there is a real emergency. Hopefully not ever, but, so yeah, thank you. That's a great question, but no, it's not. It's kind of like, yeah, maintains. Yeah. Yeah. And we don't use it to increase salaries generally, just to, to help keep the ones we have, because we don't want to lose any. Yes. So Gail Gallegos is going to make one comment.
Just a comment on what school resource officers do. They also sit on our threat assessment team. So every day in the news, you hear about a school shooting, you hear about somebody going into a school, and they are instrumental in noticing when there's a threat, when there's a student that needs help. And we want to get the student off that path to violence and get them help so that we don't have other students that are injured. And they are instrumental in that.
We have a really good partnership with law enforcement. So what else? What other questions can we answer for you before I turn a little bit of time over to Dr. Scott Root? Anything else? And again, our website has all the information, and we would entertain any kind of a question that you might have about it. We're not telling you how to vote. We hope that we've educated you, though, so you can make an educated decision, and hopefully your voice, it matters. So hopefully you will go to the polls and cast your vote however you would like and make your voice matter for us here in Cassia County. So, okay, I don't see any others. So Dr. Scott Root, would you mind coming up here? So I will be retiring in June, so June 30th, it will be my last day as superintendent, but pretty sure the district hasn't seen the last of me. So I'll probably have to, hang around at ball games and concerts and, central office and whatever. And what? And maybe substitute teach. No, I love teaching. It's my passion. So you haven't seen the last of me, but in this capacity you have. And Dr. Scott Root will be taking over, and he and Chester Bradshaw will be partners in crime instead of me and Chester. And they will be leading the district, and I'm just confident the two of them are just going to do great things for Cassia County.
Thanks so much, Sandra. And in a moment, I'll talk a little bit about the big shoes that we have to fill with Sandra leaving. So I'll talk about that just a bit. But first, I wanted to give a public appreciation to the school board for entrusting me in this position. I take it very serious, and it's a great honor. So Ryan Cranny and Kent Kidd and Chris Christensen, Sandy Baker's here, and Monica Maurer is here. So appreciate the trust that you put into me on this. So they've asked me to speak a little bit about myself and my background. And so I will expound upon that a little bit. I'm sorry for those that have already heard a bit of my background. You have to bear through it again. But I'm from Idaho. I'm from Treasure Valley. And I grew up on a farm actually just downstream from the Snake River here. A farm actually on the Snake. If you know past Caldwell towards the Oregon border, there's two little towns called Homedale and Wilder. And so the farm I grew up on is just the north side of that Snake River there. And it's a wonderful upbringing I had. My grandmother lived down the hill, and my uncle lived just across the street, which was a great, wonderful upbringing. I love the values that I grew up with and that small sense of community. And, I felt a great sense of love from the community I grew up in. I guess the downside was you couldn't get away with very much. But, so I'm from Idaho, and I graduated from Homedale High School. And then I went to Northwest Nazarene College, back then it's university now, studied mathematics. And then I wanted to explore the world, so I took off for 5 years. And I taught 2 years advanced placement in Robert College in Istanbul, and then 3 years the International Baccalaureate Math in Geneva, Switzerland. But I itched to get back to Idaho, So I came back to Idaho and got a teaching job at Caldwell High School. I taught upper level mathematics and finished a master's degree from the University of Idaho, and then was offered the principalship of Parma High School. I don't know if you know where Parma is, just kind of up Highway 95 there from Caldwell. So I was principal of Parma High School, and that was my first administrative role. So I taught 9 years mathematics, and I've actually been the administrator for now 29 years. Time has really moved on. After Parma, because of my first international experience, I was offered to work for the International School System, a nonprofit directing State Department schools. So I started off just thinking I'd go a couple of years, and I directed 3 schools for them over the years, and then went up through the ranks, ended up becoming the director of operations for it. And so I managed 36 schools around the world, servicing about 7,000 students in 26 countries. So it was a very complex operation, and it was a wonderful experience, and I loved it very much. I have 2 daughters, and they're in their 20s right now, and they spend a lot of time overseas, but we always made it a point to come back to Idaho every summer. So their understanding of America was actually spending full summers in Idaho, and they loved it because my parents, and actually my parents still own the farm. My father's 91 now, my mom is 89. My father refuses to sell. He leases it out though, because he can't farm it at age 91. And so they're still alive. And I have 2 sisters there. My father actually made a offer to all, there's 4 of us kids. I have a brother also, but my 2 sisters. And they offered that if you were to build on his land, he'd subdivide it and give us some really nice property there on the farm. And my 2 sisters took him up on it. So they're there still. My brother and I didn't. But I did make it a point every summer to bring my kids back, my 2 daughters, to Idaho. We spent the summers there, and they loved it because my parents are so nice, and my sisters. And so I was really delighted that my younger daughter, who is married and has I have a grandchild now, moved to Boise this last year. And so they have now settled in Idaho. And so that's, of course, a big draw for me to come back to. So I've come full circle. I have been wanting to get back to Idaho, and I've made it back by virtue of being able to be hired by Cache County School District. So I'm very, very, very thankful for that. I'm very thankful to be in Idaho. I do not aspire to return to my previous work. I enjoyed that. It was a good experience, but I am here, and this is not a stepping stone to anywhere else. I wish to invest myself wholeheartedly to this community, and I love this community and the values associated with this community. Now, I've just indulged here a little bit more. Why Cache County? When I came here to interview, I was so utterly impressed with what's going on in the school district. Not only the facilities well kept, maintained, it's very clear to me that the school community greatly values education. You can just drive by the school facilities and see how well upkept they are, and that, gymnasiums, the facilities are really remarkable. Few schools have the extended facilities that this community has. And then looking at the program, it's no longer a guessing game in education what works really well. 20 years ago, I was not sure, what would you put your money into? You want to reduce class sizes or what? But there's big meta-analysis studies that have been done over the last 20 years, a lot of them John Hattie, Marzano, and so on, that have used effect sizes to compare school initiatives. And there's several of these initiatives that have really come out proven to be the best practices in education. And I don't know if you know, the Cache School District has the top 6 in place. And I know hardly any other schools. One thing that I gained through my previous work, running through 36 schools around the world, I was in and out of schools all the time. And I could see what worked really well in schools or not. And these 6 initiatives are very, very effective in running schools, and you have them in place here at Cassia School District. What I can say is that these initiatives don't happen in a vacuum. I won't elaborate upon what the 6 are, but they happen by hard work and design. And it's a real tribute to Sandra and Chester and the school board for their vision in putting these initiatives in place. These are initiatives that greatly impact positively the instruction of students, the holistic education, social emotional learning. So I'm very delighted here, and it'll be a shout out to Sandra for leaving the school district in such tremendous shape, and be very big shoes to fill. So thank you. I don't know if there's any questions. If has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay.
Chester and myself and Monica, Trustee Maurer, went in the morning, and Dr. Root, and we visited some campuses in Malta, so Raft River and Declo and Albion and Oakley, and we did have a couple little kids when we introduced him, ask him to make some changes. As the superintendent, please, they said, don't make us go to school on Fridays. And he said, well, I'm not the superintendent yet. She is. So then they come to me, please. So they're cute. But we had a good time today. Chester was with us and enjoyed it. And yeah, so we're going to stick around if you have questions on the supplemental. If you want to visit with Dr. Root, with Chester, with any of us, we'll be here. Our trustees are all here. Monica Maurer came in. I knew she was going to be here tonight. So with that, the formal presentation is all done, but you know, we're all about socializing, so we'd love to talk a few minutes with you, and if you are interested. So thank you very much. Yeah. Oh yeah, I almost always try to say that. So Dr. Root, where were you in 1982? Gosh, like 1992, huh? So we could, where were you in 1982?
I was in Minico. You want to tell the story? Or do you want me to tell the story?
You can tell the story.
You do it very well. So my junior year, my father took the band teaching job in Minico High. And so we spent the winter in Rupert. And that was a really great experience. So that one year, and Sandra was there, we didn't even know each other. And I'm sure we passed each other in the hallway. But that was a really great year. And I remember I took the woodworking class. So I became a big advocate of CTE programs from that year. And I made a grandfather clock, actually. It still sits today, ticking away in my parents' home on the farm there in Idaho, over by Wilder. So
we probably passed in the hall, but we didn't know each other. And that year, we had so much snow, we missed the whole month of January. And he remembered that, and so did I when we were talking just yesterday about that. And yeah, so that was our most memorable moment of 1982 as juniors at Minico, was snow and missing. So anyway, very coincidental. That was a fun little fact that we learned about each other. We didn't even know that we were at the same school. So if you want to visit, so thank you again very much for being here and braving the weather. And I understand there might be a concert in the KFAX, so you might want to peek in there and look tonight too. So thank you very much again, Dusty. Thank you and your crew, John.